Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who I learned this truth from Elder Well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Unto you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit. And I'm entitled this one, A Military Draft is Coming for America. Meaning that a lot of people that you see in your daily lives, your co-workers, people that you know in the world, maybe even your own family members, eventually, and not in the distant future, not no 50, 25, 100 years, but in the upcoming months, a lot of people who think that World War III, that the war going on in Iran versus the U.S. and Israel, that is not going to affect them, that because it's going on in the other side of the world, that they're not going to have to partake in it. But they're sadly mistaken, because you had the military age requirement in the Army be extended from age 18 or from age 34 to 42 years old, letting you know that these self-proclaimed white people, these Edomites, these people in power, starting with the tiny caps and the small hats, they need people to send over there and fight. And really, they're not even going to fight, because they're going to be on the front lines, and really they're going to be a sacrifice, because these Americans, these Babylonians, have been so accustomed to living comfortably, never going through nothing. They can't take no hell, they can't go through nothing without them complaining. So when they get sent over there, because it's prophecy, ultimately they're going to get destroyed by who everybody ignorantly calls Christ, which his real name is Yahushai in the ancient Paleo-Hebrew. A lot of our people, of the 2/3, the wicked, those who are predestined to be destroyed, they're going to get sent over there to the Middle East, to the Valley of Judgment, the Valley of Yahushai, ultimately to get pulverized by Yahushua and the angels, along with the other heathen nations, the self-proclaimed white people, and the Russians, the Ukrainians, and these other Middle Eastern countries, the Iranians, the United Arabian countries, China. They think that once this war ends and America collapses, that they got next. But no, ultimately the one nation that is going to have rulership next is going to be the nation of Israel, starting with Yahushai, the 144,000 and a large multitude. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. And I'm going to jump down to verse 8. Ecclesiastes 3 and verse 8. A time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. And right now, we're in a time of war. We're not in a time of peace, like majority of these Americans, these Babylonians, think that they are, because they live in the city of unwalled villages where people live without care. They don't care of all the world events. They don't care about geopolitics, and really they don't even care if it affects them, because as long as it's not at their front step, at their doorstep, as long as they're not messing with their bread and circus, with their food, their water, their Netflix, these people are going to keep living like nothing's going on. And that's why ultimately Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai is going to put the spirit upon Esau, Edom, to implement that draft, because people don't have that American pride like they used to, starting with these Edomites, like back in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s. It was an honor to fight for America, Babylon the Great, because they were the most feared country on the planet Earth after what they did to Japan, to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, dropping those atomic bombs. So nobody wanted to mess with America. But now, like it says in the scriptures, let the weak say I'm strong. Everybody's bucking up against America, Babylon the Great, because now they're seeing that it's not what it used to be. It's not that same golden city. That's why Trump has that slogan, "Make America Great Again." So it's not great again. It's not great. And the answer is no, because America has been collapsing ever since our high priest Elder Abba Bivens came on the scene. But in a carnal way, since they took the dollar off of the silver standard, gold, now it's not worth nothing. It's just backed up by the belief that these people have in it, and ultimately by oil, by petroleum. But very soon, or not even very soon, all these nations are doing away with the dollar, which is leading to inflation, is leading to job losses, is leading to people not having trust in America. And that's why you got Trump over there trying to take control of the Strait of Hormuz, trying to take control of the oil, because they need leverage. They need leverage over these other countries, but Iran's not having it. Iran's like, okay, we're ready for you. We've been preparing for you. We've been preparing for 20 years. We already have 1 million troops ready. But yet, America's only sending like a couple thousand troops. And they're going to get obliterated. And that's why they're going to need more numbers. This is Matthew chapter 10 and verse 34. Think not that I am come to send peace on earth. I came not to send peace, but a sword. And this is in red letter, Yahweh Shai speaking. Yahweh Shai is not putting that spirit upon the earth of peace and safety. And if he is, ultimately is to deceive the people so they can be comfortable. So when all hell breaks loose, so when the great calamities come, when the plagues get let loose, it's going to hit them. When ultimately there was war going on all this time, but people weren't paying attention. People weren't paying attention to the Middle East. They weren't paying attention to all the different geopolitics that were taking place. No, they were too distracted with the cares of the world, with the bread circus, with building up their life here in America, Babylon the Great. So when that draft letter comes in the mail, especially to these YNs, these 2/3 Jakes, Pookie and Ray Ray and Hector, they're gonna be like, well, man, why is this happening? But it was brewing up all this time, but they weren't paying attention. So when they get that draft letter, a lot of people, they're gonna try to escape the country. They're gonna off themselves because they don't want to fight over there. Nobody wants to fight for America, because ultimately the one that's controlling America, Babylon the Great, are the tiny caps, Israel, the imposters. This is Jeremiah 50 and verse 45, because ultimately is the tiny caps, the small hats, the 48ers, the imposters, those who are proclaiming to be the true chosen people of Yahweh Bashim Shai, but we know that they're not. They're the ones drawing this thing out because they want all hell to break loose so they can implement that RFID microchip, which is the MOTB written about in Revelation chapter 13 and verse 16. This is Jeremiah chapter 50 and verse 45, and it reads, therefore hear ye the counsel of the Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai that he had taken against Babylon, and his purposes that he had purposed against the land of the Chaldeans. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. And who's the least of the flock? The so-called, the tiny caps, the small hats, the 48ers. Those who took over the Holy Land, who are proclaiming to be the true chosen people, those who you can't speak about, or you get canceled, or you get off, those are the least of the flock. And they're the ones that are leading America into this third world war. They already led them and are leading them to the Middle East as we speak. But it's only going to ramp up more and more because these 48ers, these tiny caps, they're not gonna let go from the gas pedal. They're full on throttle because they know that they have a short time, so they have to provoke all these different nations so they can finally come to the valley of judgment, the valley of Yahweh Shaphat. So ultimately Yahweh Bashmiel Shai can destroy them, so he can pulverize them. And that's what's gonna happen. Eventually those nukes, thermonuclear missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles that all these other countries have, Russia, China, North Korea, India, Iran, eventually they're going to be shot to the land of Israel and to America, Babylon the Great, to utterly destroy that place. But as the scripture says, America, Babylon the Great will never be inhabited ever again. Then you have the land of Israel, which will be hit by thermonuclear fire, by the missiles, but it will, it has to be cleansed from all the filth that has been going on over there in the Holy Land. But the land of Israel will be inhabited again by the true chosen people of Yahweh Bashmiel Shai, the true Israelites, which are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, and the Israelite foreigners that have been scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. They're going to come looking like these other heathen nations, but their lineage goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's when the land of Israel is going to be truly inhabited and be at peace. Not no missiles flying over your head. This is Jeremiah 51 and verse 30, and it reads, "The mighty men of Babylon have born to fight. They have remained in their holds. Their might had failed. They become as women. They have burned her dwelling places. Her bars are broken." Going into these American men, these Babylonians, they're not ready to fight. And they even had a article come out how majority of American men ages 18 to 24, they don't fit the requirements to join the military. They're either obese, they're not all the way in the head, they're slow, handicapped, whatever you want to call it. The little bus. A lot of these Americans, these Babylonians, they're not ready to fight. They don't meet the requirements. They're out of shape. They can't do one pull-up. They can't walk a mile without being out of breath. They can't go up the stairs because Babylon, America, has conditioned these people to remain comfortable, to be in that docile state, live a sedentary life, never moving. So when that draft letter comes in the mail, they're going to be like, man, what the hell? They're not even going to go through no training like that for real. They're just going to send them to the Middle East, to the valley of Yahweh Shaphat, so they can get their judgment. And a lot of them, they're going to be required to take that RFID microchip, which is the MOTB. Because in the times we're coming in, there's not going to be any jobs. There's not going to be any occupations, any 9-to-5s. So the only solution that Esau Edom is going to offer is for these 2/3 and these heathens to fight in the military, because it's going to offer incentives. It's going to offer food and water, 3 meals a day, shelter, because all hell will be breaking loose to the point where people are going to be crying out for a solution. And Esau Edom is going to offer that solution. He's going to offer, okay, join the military. You get to enjoy free food and water, raiment, shelter. And when you come back from the war, from World War III, we'll give you a house. We'll give you $100,000. And then a lot of jakes, a lot of heathens, a lot of so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, they're going to take that offer, but they're not going to come back. They're going to get put to death by Yahweh Bashmiel Shai and the angels. This is Joel chapter 2 and verse 20. But I will remove far off from you the northern army, going into the American military. It says, and will drive him into a land barren and desolate, the Middle East, all full of desert. Really no vegetation grows over there. It says, with his face toward the east sea, and his hinder part toward the utmost sea, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he had done great things. And the whole world has looked at America, Babylon the Great, like it can't be defeated, because you see how all the weapons, the fighter jets, the nukes, the tanks, the large number of men that Babylon the Great America has. But that's why it's going to be so beautiful, because just like Rome looked unbeatable. Oh, hell no, we can't take Rome down. And it's the same spirit today. People looked at America, Babylon the Great, like it can't be taken down. Like, oh shit, we can't touch them. But now the weak are saying I'm strong. They're beating their I don't want to butcher it, but I'll get it in a little bit. This is Revelation, around Joel chapter 3 and verse 2. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down to the valley of Yehoshaphat, which is the valley of Yehoshaphat, the valley of judgment, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations in part of my land. So ultimately, these other heathen nations, Russia and Edomites, America, China, all these different heathen nations, they're going to get judged for all they've done to the children of Israel, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, the transatlantic slave trade, the Northern Kingdom getting, put to death and massacred, the Native Americans. That's why Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is going to gather up all these nations to fight, the battle of Armageddon, to get put to death. I'm going to jump down to verse 9. It says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles. It says, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up. Verse 10, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. And that's why all these jobs, these farmers, food is declining, because whenever there's a depression, a recession, they're putting all the resources into military equipment, into so-called defense systems, because all these nations, they're getting prepared, and really they already been prepared for the Third World War. They've seen it coming a mile away, especially against Babylon the Great, knowing the power that America has, and that reputation of being a hammer of the earth. That's why all these countries, they're fed up with America, Babylon the Great. They don't have that fear that they used to have, like back in the day, like after World War II, after the bombing of Japan. So that's why all these countries, they're bucking up against America. Iran, they're bold as all hell, tell them about, come closer, we're ready for you. Verse 11, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about thither, because thy mighty wants to come down, O Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. Verse 12, let the heathen be wakened and come to the valley of Yehoshaphat, for there will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. And how is that great judgment in the valley of Yehoshaphat going to take place? In the midst of World War III, after the RFID microchip gets made implemented, which is right around the corner, that's when those nukes are going to be shot. Those nukes are going to be shot to America, Babylon the Great, to the land of Israel, while that battle is taking place. And then that's when Yahweh Shai, who everybody ignorantly calls Christ, is going to make his second coming. He's going to crack the clouds, and everybody's going to stop what they're doing to fight Yahweh Shai and the heavenly host, the angels. You know, the chariots who everybody ignorantly calls UFOs. This is Matthew chapter 12 and verse 7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, which is, you know, Esau, Edom, you know, this beast system, NATO and the EU. It says, and the dragon fought his angels. And this is not going into no fight in heaven, you know, Lucifer, rebel. No, this is Yahweh Shai and the angels against Esau, Edom, you know, and his angels on the left hand side, which are the fighter jets, you know, whatever aircraft, whatever fighter jets they got, you know, that they haven't shown to the public yet. Esau, Edom's going to bring him out, you know, because he knows what's coming. That's why he formed the Space Force, you know, the 6th military branch, because Esau, Edom knows what's coming. He knows the scriptures. He knows that his time is up. And that's why he's bugging out. He's crashing out, because he knows that he has a short time, like it says in verse 12. Verse 8, and prevail not, neither was their place found any more in heaven. So it's going to be an overkill. But that ultimately is Yahweh Bashim Al-Shai is going to put the spirit upon these heathen nations, these fighter jets, to fight against Yahweh Shai and the angels. But it's going to be an overkill. And even some of our own people that are going to get drafted, that are going to get sent to the Middle East, they're going to fight Yahweh Shai and the angels, but they're going to get obliterated. It's going to be an overkill. They're going to get a zap, you know, by the beams of the chariots. But that's what's coming to all these Pookies and Ray Rays, these wicked ass Israelites and these heathens that have been scoffing and mocking, talking about there's not going to be any World War III. There's not going to be any military draft. Man, it's speaking loud and clear, and it's right around the corner. You know, but that's pretty much the point. I pray that this was edifying unto the elect. I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem HaKakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learned this truth from Elder well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Unto you I say Shalom.